Hello, this is I Go Travel with Don Barnett. We pulled into Banff here to do a little bike riding, but you'll see in this video we ran into a little trouble with the weather. So we started to look around Banff at some of the scenery and some of the things, and in this video you'll see more than just scenery at Banff. We're getting close to Banff now. I'll show you a few wildlife and tell you some stories about them. This is a part one of a two-part series on Banff. This part is about the town itself, and part two is basically about the black grizzly of Whiskey Creek. We stayed outside the park at the municipal campground in Canmore. By the time you paid all of the follow-up fees Parks Canada tax onto the basic price that initially fooled you into thinking it was a pretty good rate, we found a cheaper and easier to stay place just outside the park. To the basic park camping fee, which is already on the high price side, you have to pay a firewood fee and a per person day fee just to be inside the park. Whether you stay in a hotel, bed and breakfast, or campground, Banff is not a cheap place to stay or holiday. We are just outside of Canmore, and we were going to bike the trail from Canmore into Banff. It follows the #1 highway off to the side, and it's a very pleasant ride. We've ridden it before. We might get time to do that, but I think this morning we're going to go over to the west side of Banff to Johnson's Canyon, the old highway, the old Highway 1A. They've closed it off, and so it's allowed for bicyclers only for part of that to run out there. And apparently it's a very nice ride, so we're going to head out that way. But so far, a little bit of biking here. We're early spring in Banff, and there's snow in quite a few places, especially in the shady places. It was actually a little too cool to bike ride today, so we're looking forward to warmer and sunnier weather tomorrow. Is there anything wrong with the picture that you're seeing? We were biking yesterday, but we had a little snowfall last night here in the mountains. And we're living in the land of snow. It's everywhere you go. And I can tell you it is really so, where the cold winds howl and blow. But there's one thing that I know, when it's springtime in Canada, it's 40 below. Well, let's have a cup of coffee. It looks like it'll be a few years before we're back on the bike trail again. I'll just make a little bit of room for the snow here. How's that? Now I've got a place for the coffee. We had a little snowfall last night. It's all part of bicycling. Two things put the bite on our bike riding. One was the cool spring weather. The other is the basic truth that Banff and other national parks in general do not have a lot of bike trails designed for the average bike rider. Banff has only two. One is part of the old Highway 1 that is closed off temporarily for a while, at least for bike riding. And second, the commuting paved trail that flows along the highway east to Canmore and west to Lake Louise. Also, National Parks has this outdated rule that e-bikes are not permitted on many trails that are available to the old all-pedal style of bike. With the park's high entry and camping prices, restrictions on e-bikes further removes the average Canadian citizen and taxpayer who put up the money in the first place to build the parks to find that their national parks are beyond their reach today. Perhaps this in part accounts for 70% of visitors to Banff National Park coming from foreign countries like the US, Japan, India, and European locations that can afford these prices. Since we could not bike much, let's take a look at the countryside around Banff. There's a story about this mountain west of Banff. It is called Castle Mountain. Years back, its name was changed, often after considerable local opposition. It was changed to the name of Mount Eisenhower in honor of a U.S. president who was scheduled to meet the Canadian Prime Minister in Banff. Something important came up, and the U.S. president had to cancel the meeting, but the name was already changed. It took 20 years of continual local pressure to get the Canadian government to change the name back to its original, Castle Mountain. Like with its current e-bike policy, the speed in which government attempts to keep up with the times would make a turtle look like a racehorse. Over a half a century ago, Europe proved that wildlife crossovers and tunnels were very effective in avoiding road accidents while enabling wildlife to maintain their migratory patterns. Canada is catching on. The highway west of Banff has installed overpasses and tunnels with fencing that guides wildlife to these crossover points along the highway. Both small and large wildlife uses these tunnels and overpasses. This is a mini photographed scene of Main Street, Banff, with Sulphur Mountain in the background. In summer, cars would be parked and on the street, bumper to bumper. There are bikes around in the downtown, but as I said earlier, with the exception of those two trails we talked about a bit earlier, biking for the average person is limited. Because of the summertime crowds, everyone walks in all directions on the green light. Large tour buses like this one add to the crowds of the mini cars parked bumper to bumper. Hard to find a place, but there is free parking at the railway station. The bike shop at the station told me that 70% of their rentals were e-bikes, and it appeared that the percentage would increase again this year. Did I mention that Parks Canada e-bike policy is outdated and irrelevant? The public will continue to ignore it unless it joins up with the current century. This shows the international flavor of Banff. And this also shows the wealthy flavor of Banff. How about this photo? It was put on a t-shirt for sale in one of the Banff stores. Here is some writing on another t-shirt. This is what the bear says. Live large, sniff out opportunities, take a good long nap, climb beyond your limitations, take a walk on the wild side, and take care of your honey. Seeing this nice statue of a moose makes me think of a story that a train engineer in the area told me about a moose on the track one time. It seems that the train scared up a moose that was on the track. The moose started trotting down the track, and the train kept a-coming, beeping its horn every once in a while, hoping to scare the moose off the track. With each toot of the horn, the moose kept looking around, getting more angry at this strange monster chasing it for no reason. One more toot, and the moose had had enough. It whirled around, lowered its head, and charged the train. It was the end of the moose. And by the way, this is a photo that I took of a live photo of a cow moose. Now let's get back to the Banff streets. Wide sidewalks like these better accommodate large crowds. Although 96% of the park is declared wilderness, it gets 3 to 4 million visitors annually, 25,000 daily visitors, and over 50,000 on a busy summer day. Early infrastructure like roads and gates and power lines and sewer lines were built by so-called enemy aliens in the World War I and World War II eras. They included captured German soldiers and some conscientious objectors, like some Saskatchewan Mennonites. This is a statue of Cornelius Van Horn, early president of the CPR, Canadian Pacific, and founder of the company's string of luxurious hotels, including this nearly 4,000-room Banff Springs Hotel here. Banff came to everyone's attention when railway workers discovered the cave and basin hot springs that you can still jump into today. Since back then, the Canadian Pacific and the Canadian government's Parks Canada has sought and catered to wealthy tourists. Here is another nice hotel down the highway a bit at Lake Louise, the Lake Louise Chateau. It's a beauty. Walk through it and enjoy a little bite to eat if you like, but enjoy the scenery. Banff has a world-class golf course, even enjoyed by deer and these elk, and the odd bear passing through. Look around a bit and you'll find Bow Falls right in the town. It's a nice little waterfall. And when we drove out to some of the lake areas, look who we ran across. Some mountain sheep. It's early spring and the males all stay together. The females stay separately at this time of year. And we ran on to another little herd. They like to lick up the salt off the highway because the highways department puts salt on the highway to melt the ice. All right, I hope you enjoyed a little bit about Banff. We're heading for part 2, and we're going to talk about grizzlies and the black grizzly of Whiskey Creek. But in this video, if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button and we'll bring you more. Okay, this is I Go Travel with Don Barnett. You will see this same slide in part 2 on Banff. But if you want to hear more bear stories, I've got a few more. I told some bear stories in the British Columbia section of my website. I made a video on the Yellowhead Highway in the bottom of this slide here and on Prince Rupert. And in both of those videos, I told a couple of bear stories. So if you're interested in those, click onto the British Columbia section and go to those videos on the Yellowhead Highway and Prince Rupert. Okay, let's run her on out.